Welcome back to Flying Upstream. If you are new here, I'm so glad you found this show. And if you have been listening for a while, you already know what we do here. We question the default path, we challenge what society tells us success should look like, and we spotlight people who choose to live differently. Today is a little different. No guest, just me. I've had the honor of sitting across from so many incredible humans, survivors, founders, veterans, athletes, spiritual teachers, entrepreneurs, people who rebuilt their lives after losing everything, people who walked away from careers that looked perfect on paper, people who faced unimaginable adversity and chose courage anyway. After all these conversations, I started noticing patterns, themes, truths that kept rising to the surface. So today I want to share the top 5 things I have learned from my guests. These are not just inspirational sound bites. These are lessons that have changed how I see my own life. So let us begin. Lesson 1. Success without alignment feels empty. So many of my guests did exactly what society told them to do. Build the company, climb the ladder, win the medals, get the degree, make the money. And they did. Chris Land built and sold companies, took one public, lived the high achievement life, and then he woke up one day and realized he had built success that did not feel like him anymore. Sarah Abel climbed the corporate ladder quickly and was told she had already hit her cap. Less than 5 years in, she had done everything right, but something inside her knew that was not the whole story. And Lou Bim Kogan worked on Wall Street, high performance, high pressure, then depression hit. And that question surfaced. What is all this for? Here's what I have learned. External success cannot compensate for internal misalignment. You can check every box and still feel restless. You can achieve everything and still feel like something is missing. Alignment is not about prestige, it's about resonance. Does your life feel like yours? When I listen back to these episodes, what stands out is not their accomplishments. It's the moment they realize they could not ignore the misalignment anymore. That's the moment that's terrifying, but it's also so sacred because that's where the upstream swim begins. Ask yourself this: if no one could see your life from the outside, would you still choose it? That question alone has changed me. Lesson 2. Adversity can either shrink or sharpen you. Ken Kunkin was in the hospital for 9 months and 20 days after a spinal cord injury, paralyzed from the neck down, doctors telling him what he would never do again. Laura Brayton lost her sight as a teenager and had to grieve the life she thought she would have. Terry Fossum survived extreme challenges and then turned that resilience into service and deep leadership. And what struck me in all these conversations was not toxic positivity. None of them pretended it was easy. None of them skipped over grief. But every single one of them made a choice, not once, but over and over again. They chose to respond rather than collapse. Adversity strips away illusion. It forces clarity. It reveals what actually matters. Ken went back to Cornell even when the campus was not accessible. Laura rebuilt her life around grit and gratitude. Lou Bim turned his own depression into programs that help veterans heal. Pain did not disappear, but purpose emerged. Here's what I have learned. You cannot always control what happens to you, but you always control what meaning you assign to it. And meaning shapes momentum. Every guest who has faced major adversity had a moment where they asked, "What now?" That question is powerful. Not why me, not this is unfair, but what now? When something hard happens in my own life now, I hear that echo. What now? That shift alone is the difference between shrinking and sharpening. Lesson 3. You do not need permission to reinvent yourself. This one might be my favorite. So many of my guests reinvented themselves in ways that would have confused their younger selves. Ballerina to author, Wall Street professional to veteran retreat founder, corporate designer to entrepreneur mom building from home, blind teenager to global speaker. technologist to best-selling author mentoring families. There is this myth that reinvention is reckless. But what I keep seeing is that reinvention is often the most responsible choice someone can make. Responsible to their own truth, responsible to their family, responsible to their growth. One theme that keeps showing up is this, reinvention. And reinvention rarely feels convenient. It often comes with risk, less certainty, less applause, less validation at first. But the long-term payoff is integrity. And here's what I have noticed about people who reinvent themselves. They stop asking, what will people think? And start asking, who am I becoming? That shift is enormous. I used to think reinvention meant burning everything down, and now I see it differently. Reinvention is refinement. It is peeling away what no longer fits. It's allowing the next version of you to breathe. And you don't need anyone to certify that transition. No panel, no approval stamp, no committee vote, just courage. If you feel the pull to evolve, that's enough. Lesson 4. Service heals both the giver and the receiver. And this one surprised me. When I look across episodes, the people who seem most grounded and fulfilled are those who turned their pain into service. Lou Beam created spaces for veterans to rest and reconnect. Terry teaches people to speak powerfully so their voices are not lost. Laura helps people navigate change with courage. Ken shows what resilience looks like in action. And Chris writes books to help families avoid costly mistakes in building their dream homes. So service is not just charity, it's contribution. And contribution creates meaning. Several guests have said some version of this. The moment I stopped focusing only on myself, things shifted. There is something about helping someone else that recognizes your own perspective. It reduces isolation. It reminds you that your struggle is not wasted. It transforms pain into fuel. Now, let me be clear. Service does not mean self-abandonment. It does not mean ignoring your needs. But when your healing expands outward, something powerful happens. You realize your story is not just about you. That is what Flying Upstream is all about at its core. Amplifying voices. Because when one person shares their journey, someone listening feels less alone. And that is service too. If you're feeling stuck, ask yourself this. Who could I help with what I already know? You don't need a huge platform. You need willingness. Service creates momentum. Lesson 5. Courage is quieter than you think. We often imagine courage as dramatic. Big speeches, grand exits, bold declarations. But after interviewing so many brave people, I see courage differently now. Courage is often quiet. It's looking and it's booking the therapy appointment. It's applying to the program, even if you might get rejected. It's having the hard conversation. It's starting over at 40. It's admitting you're not happy. It's choosing sobriety. It's leaving a job that pays well but costs you your peace. Courage is not always loud. Sometimes it's simply telling the truth over and over again. One thing I've learned from these conversations is that fear never fully disappears. Even the most accomplished guests still feel fear, but they move anyway, and that's the difference. They don't wait for confidence. They build it through action, and they understand that discomfort is not danger, it's growth. When I think about the thread that connects every single guest who has been on the show, it's this. They did not wait to feel ready. They acted while uncertain. They trusted something internal more than external approval, and that is upstream living. So here are the 5 lessons again. Success without alignment feels empty. Adversity can sharpen you if you let it. You do not need permission to reinvent yourself. Service transforms pain into purpose. Courage is quieter and more accessible than you think. These are not abstract ideas. These are lived realities from people who have walked through fire and built something meaningful on the other side. And hosting this podcast has changed me. It's made me braver. It has made me more honest with myself. It has made me question timelines and expectations. It has reminded me that there is no single right way to live. Every time I sit down with a guest, I'm reminded that the traditional script is optional. You can build something unconventional. You can pivot, you can heal, you can rebuild, you can speak up, you can rest, you can evolve. You don't need to do it perfectly. If you're listening right now and feeling that quiet nudge that something in your life wants to shift, consider this your permission slip. Or better yet, your reminder that you don't need one. You don't need a permission slip. So I want to leave you with a question. What part of your life feels misaligned right now? And what one small courageous action, what could it look like for you to do this week? Not a dramatic overhaul, just one little step. Send the email, research the program, block the time, say no, say yes. Upstream living is not about chaos. It's about conscious choice. So thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And a big thank you to every guest who has trusted this platform with their story.